What's up, everybody? Welcome to the 4Hackrr podcast. I am super excited because this is the first episode of this podcast. And today I want to just share a little bit about myself and give you guys some background of who I am and what is it that I do. And also give you the structure of this podcast and what you're going to expect going forward. My name is Eddie Espinal. I am an iOS engineer at Pandora. And when I'm not at Pandora, I'm home with my family and also tinkering with electronic. I developed this passion for electronics since I was a kid. I remember when I was like 8 years old, I used to play with this flashlight bulb. And I used to put this battery and gave this light bulb different voltage. And at some point, I even burned those light bulbs because I didn't know how much voltage you were supposed to give them. But the thing is that throughout my years, as I kept getting older, I kept developing this love for technology, and that's when I got into computer. Got into computer back in 1996 when I was in high school, and also by some motivation from a close friend of mine, which it was almost like a family member. He got me into the idea of programming, and I fell in love from day one. I remember him telling me all the possibilities and the things that you can achieve with programming or as a developer. And he sold me on that, where since then, I never stopped learning. I never stopped looking for things to do with programming languages, but also mixing it with technology and, in my case, electronics. I started this channel on Instagram for the 4Hackrr, and I used that as a way to share the things that I was building on my free time, because most of those projects I used to keep them for myself. But then I felt that was not fair, because sometimes when you post projects like that on a social media, it can serve as an inspiration for somebody else who might want to get started on it, but maybe they don't know what to do. And just a little kick, a little inspirational by seeing somebody else doing something with maybe things that they already have laying around, it can give them a good motivation to get started. And that's one of the drivers for me to continue to post things on Instagram as I keep building them. And then this idea for the podcast, it was because I am a heavy consumer of podcasts. I spend most of my driving time to work listening to podcasts, especially the Pat Flynn, a very fan of him. And he inspired me all the time to think of starting this podcast for this community and for my channel on 4Hackrr. And finally, I decided to take that opportunity to do the podcast and stop the procrastinating, because that's what we do. And that's why I decided to start this podcast, because my idea is that, as you know, Instagram is very limited to the things that you can share. And the things that I usually share are the projects that is already finished, but you don't really get to understand what was behind the thought process that went into building that project. And also, did I face any challenges along the way? I never share how much those projects cost me and things like that. So the goal for this podcast is to maybe take you a little deeper than the finished project that I post, and maybe get you guys to understand and to see the bigger picture or the reasons that went into building those projects. So that's what I'm planning to do, is to dive deeper in the things that I'm posting, give you guys a better understanding. And along the way is also sharing the code, sharing the part that I use, giving you guys the ability and the opportunity to do what I do using the same component that you can grab it from my website. So every episode that I'm going to be posting or releasing for this podcast is going to also come with a detailed blog post on my website, 4Hackrr.com. And you can find the source code for every episode, putting the episode number after the domain name. So for example, for episode 01, you're going to put 4Hackrr.com/EP for episode 01. And that's going to take you to the detail page for that particular episode, where you're going to find the source code and all the writings of the details, and also the list of the parts or the component that I used in the project. So that way you can either buy it or if you already have it, build the projects yourself. So again, this podcast is going to be all about sharing, all about inspiring you guys to start tinkering with electronics. Get those microcontroller from your drawer and start using them in a way that makes sense, in a way that can fix certain problems, like the garage project that I'm going to share in the next episode, where it came out of need. It was a need that me and my wife needed because we kept forgetting to close the garage door, and that's when I decided to build a project, and I share the whole process. So stay tuned for the next episode, which I'm going to be sharing the garage automation project, where I'm going to take you back into why I built it and how I built it. And again, all the source code, you're always going to find them at the episode blog post that follows every episode. Well, thank you guys for taking your time. I just wanted to give you a quick introduction about this podcast and a little bit about me, and hopefully get to see you guys in the next episode. And if you like what I'm doing, please take your time to subscribe to this podcast. It's going to help me and motivate me to continue making this episode, and also so you can get notifications when I release the next show or the next episode. iTunes will automatically, if you're using iTunes, it's going to automatically notify you. Thank you guys. Thank you for your support, and I see you in the next episode.